Hi, everybody. This is SAAD for the SAAD Truth. In several of my clips, I have covered the hysteria regarding, quote, white supremacy. Pretty much everything is white supremacy. So, for example, in SAAD Truth 519, I talked about one's idea that pumpkins are inherently linked to white supremacy. Yes, you heard right, pumpkins. And then in SAAD Truth 244, there was that Disney promotes white supremacy. I even offered a way for you to take a test to know if you're a white supremacist. That's SAAD Truth 520. And going back to SAAD Truth 413, I also talked about some outlandish manifestations of hysteria regarding, quote, white supremacy. But then I decided today that maybe there should be sort of an amalgamation of all of the things that have been linked to white supremacy by the progressives and the social justice warriors. And the list is a very long one. I've covered many of these in various tweets and commentaries on my social media. Just yesterday and today, I shared two examples that deal with one case was at UC Berkeley, where students of color argued that taking exams is a form of white supremacy, and meritocracy itself is a form of white supremacy. So what I thought I would do is just list for you here. I will actually read for you. In many cases, they're verbatim. The actual titles are taken verbatim from the Campus Reform website. So what I did there is I simply entered white supremacy in their search field, and then just started going through the first, I think I went through the first maybe 10 pages of hits. So here are some things that are manifestations of or that cause white supremacy and white privilege and so on. So, punishing protesters promotes white supremacy. Taking exams is part of white supremacy, as I already mentioned. Voting for Trump, of course, promotes white supremacy. Having white children, if you're a white person and you have a child, ultimately, by definition, results or yields white supremacy, because then you're having white children who then promote downstream white supremacy. As I mentioned earlier, meritocracy is white supremacy. Jefferson's statue is white supremacy, and now we know that many other statues are white supremacy. White marble in artwork contributes to white supremacy. Again, I'm reading some of these literally verbatim from the site. Capitalism promotes white supremacy. One that I recently covered, I was actually asked to weigh in on this issue with the RT Media, the Russian network. Clearly, I must be a Russian spy. But mathematics promotes white supremacy. Now, some of you might remember that a while ago I had satirized this whole idea wherein I announced that there was a new field called social justice mathematics. So look for that previous SAAD Truth clip. As I said, my satire in many cases proves prophetic, although in some cases I produce a satirical piece to then find out that reality has already beaten me to it. So earlier today, I argued that the French language was transphobic because it is a gendered language that uses masculine and feminine form, and hence it promulgates, quote, fixed binaries. And instead we should have a gender neutral, gender free, and non-binary language. And then someone wrote to me and said, sorry, professor, they've already beaten you to it. Apparently it went in front of the Académie Française, which is the somehow sort of the final arbiter of whether we could change things in the French language. So there you have it. Specific university mascots promote white supremacy, and there are several universities that have argued along those lines. Of course, Halloween costumes, we all know that minefield of racism. Halloween costumes promote white supremacy. This next one is fantastic because you truly would think that it's only within the realm of satire, milk is now apparently becoming a symbol of white nationalism. Okay. Many of you, of course, know that science itself perpetuates white supremacy, hence the hashtag science must fail movement, hashtag decolonize science. We need to have multiple ways of knowing. So to the extent that a lot of our scientific knowledge originates from white males, then in a sense, science itself is a form of white supremacy. What else? Medieval studies are becoming a vehicle of white supremacy. And some of you may have known that in some universities, very elite universities, they're now trying to, get rid of all sorts of very famous writers. I think even none other than Shakespeare might be someone who promulgates white supremacy, if memory serves me right. Free speech is white supremacy. The whole idea of, allowing people to express themselves freely in a free society, well, you might think that that's a laudable objective. It turns out that it is a form of white supremacy, which, of course, I have personal testimony to that effect, because remember that I was supposed to speak at an event on the stifling of free speech on university campuses, which was shut down in August. It's going to be held actually 1 week from today in Toronto, and I'll be there. Well, of course, I was accused of being an anti-Semitic, white supremacist Nazi, as were Jordan Peterson and Oren Amate. And of course, for those of you who know our profiles, it's quite rich to accuse us of being anti-Semitic Nazis. So free speech is white supremacy. Saying all lives matter is white supremacy. Supporting the U.S. Constitution is white supremacy. Promoting diversity of thought is, quote, white supremacist bullshit. So freedom of speech is white supremacy. The U.S. Constitution is white supremacy. Promoting diversity of thought is white supremacy. And of course, the invention of the white race is ultimately what created racism. There's absolutely no documented cases of any form of hatred toward the other among any other groups other than whites. Now, these are things that I read for you that are all documented instances. They're usually things that happened on university campuses, many times very prestigious university campuses, either promulgated by student groups. In many cases, it's by professors. So we are now in a time period where the things that I read you is not a satire. It's not Saturday Night Live. It's not a manifestation of disordered thinking. It is perfectly acceptable within the ecosystem of the university, let alone society at large, to argue that everything, and certainly many things that the West should be proud of, are not good things. They are a manifestation of the nefarious and diabolical evil of white supremacy. There you have it, folks. I hope that you're having a good weekend. If yes, great. If no, I hope things turn around for you. Cheers.